welcome to a new chapter of Indie Talks. Today we are going to meet an independent watch brand born in 2016 with a Portuguese heart and a Swiss manufacturing that offers quality at a good price and with a very characteristic image. We have with us José Miranda, founder and CEO of Isotope Watches. Welcome, José. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. And thanks for the invitation.
Okay, José, just introduce yourself to the audience. What was your previous experience before getting involved in your own brand?
Okay, so I'm originally from Portugal. So I live in the UK for 13 years now.
Mhm.
And when I was in Portugal, I grew up um, collecting watches. My first one, I was 9 years old, if I'm not wrong. And then my professional um, activity was basically advertising and film production in advertising. So I grew up um, uh, working in agencies, in production companies, and in the background, always collecting watches
Mhm.
until 2009, more or less. There was the crisis, and all the creative market, all the creative production basically disappeared. So I moved to the UK to restart my life, and
Mhm.
a few years later, I was, I was able to restart the collection
Mhm.
again, and I was going to buy another jumping hour, a new one, and it was very expensive. And my wife told me, "Why don't you make your own?"
Mhm.
And that's how everything started. So
Mhm.
10 years ago, I started flying from London to Geneva to La Chaux-de-Fonds to Bienne, and trying to understand exactly how to make watches.
Mhm.
Uh, 2 years later, I had a jumping hour made. It was very successful. It was supposed to be a one-off,
Mhm.
but it was so a gentleman asked to buy 10. I made those. I had to make 99 because only 10 was not possible. Um, and they flew. Just they
Mhm.
disappeared. And then people start asking for a diver and for a field watch, and here we are.
Okay, great. You have said that when you were 9 years old, you had your first watch. Do you
Yeah,
remember that watch?
I do. So, and I have one exactly the same. It's not here with me. So the Timex was a manual Timex. It had a white dial
Mhm.
made of. Uh, I think it was ceramic. I think it's ceramic,
Mhm.
and with black Arabic numbers, and it was very simple.
Mhm.
And one day it stopped working because water got in,
Mhm.
and I opened it.
Okay.
So and I destroyed the watch. So I was never able to put it together. But that's how fascinated I was when I opened that watch. That to see everything that was happening inside. It was incredible. That's how everything started. So it was a Timex, very simple one, very basic one. And
Mhm.
last year, a friend from Lisbon, uh, he heard about the story, and he had one,
Mhm.
and he gave it to me.
Okay,
Exactly the same one.
great. What kind of watches did you collect and do you collect now? Any kind
So
of a special type or brands?
uh, I don't follow. I am not very loyal to
A brand.
established brands.
Okay.
I I like to collect watches. So my favorite complication is jumping hour.
Uh-huh.
I always I was always been fascinated. I always wear glasses, so jumping hour for me it's an easy, a very easy way to read the time. And so
Hmm.
it's comfortable, it's simple, and I like the complication. I like the sound. I like the way that a model needs to be made to release the power. It's something that is really fascinating, and to understand how it works. And at the
Hmm.
moment, for example, uh, I'm creating one with Landron, with the team at Landron. We are creating our own model for a new jumping hour that we are creating. I have the prototype is here. It's already
Okay.
it's done.
Uh-huh.
I can show it now, or do you want to show
Yes,
it?
yes, yes. Perfect now.
Yeah. So let me just show you. It's very simple,
Hmm.
but it's very complicated at the same time, because the way we tell the time on a jumping hour. So usually, what happens with the jumping hour is that the okay,
Yeah.
usually a jumping hour, the hour
Hmm.
jumps. Okay,
Yeah.
so you have an opening, and
Hmm.
in the opening, the hour will jump. What we are doing here
Hmm.
is when the minute hand
Hmm.
gets to 12,
Oh,
the
wow.
full
Yeah.
dial jumps.
Hmm.
So you see, I'm doing it slowly so you can
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. I can see it.
Now
Very
it's
nice.
3 and so forth. So it's a new way of telling the time.
Hmm.
It's very simple. This looks like an UFO because the
Yeah.
inspiration,
Hmm.
um, it's Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space, the
Oh,
TV
wow. Yeah.
series.
Hmm.
And it's a really crazy design, but at the same time very very simple.
Hmm.
Um, and these are the kind of watches that I appreciate. So back
Hmm.
when I had money, when I was let's say a bit more comfortable in life, I
Hmm.
loved Gerald Genta complications.
Okay.
Not all of them. Some
Hmm.
cases are really not my
Yeah.
taste, but in terms of the way that you work with Disney, it really fascinates me, because it was uh, um, he was the first one basically to
Hmm.
do something like that.
Hmm.
So um, jumping hours is something very interesting. The brands that I appreciate at the moment are basically the independents. I
Yeah.
think they are. There are a few like Resans, like Urwerk,
Hmm.
uh, some MBNF as well. Um, that's the kind of
Yeah.
brands that if I had the money,
Hmm.
I will probably using. Hebring as well.
Uh-huh.
I like the Dead Seconds. I like those
Hmm.
crazy Vienna Halter as well.
Hmm.
So I like those. I
Different
have very
shapes of.
expensive taste. Let's say
Yeah.
I like expensive things, but yeah, those are the watches that I would buy if I had the chance.
Hmm.
Not having that chance, what I always do is to try to have watches that are important for me in life, in
Hmm.
moments in life, or
Hmm.
in things that we see that I love cinema. Okay,
Yeah.
for example, and I own a few watches from my favorite films, from Jaws,
Hmm.
from Alien,
Oh,
from
wow.
um, Interstellar.
Hmm.
So I have those watches that somehow made it to the cinema
Hmm.
as props, and they no they define a generation basically.
Hmm.
So I like those watches. They are not very expensive.
Yeah.
Some are difficult to find,
Hmm.
but they are they are meaningful for me. I like them.
Hmm. Jose, when are you going to release this prototype? When will it be in
This
production?
one, this is so we are finishing the model,
Hmm.
because when we make to make a prototype of the model, it's expensive, but it's not too complicated if you know the
Yeah.
right people. But to make all the parts,
Mm-hmm.
to make it affordable.
Yeah.
Because one thing is to make uh, a movement or a model with no limits. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can invest 150,
Yeah.
2,000, and you sell one watch for 2,000. You
Yeah.
recover the investment, and everything else is profit, and that's it. So, but I'm not in that market, so I
Yeah.
need to create uh, the conditions to create a model or to change, to tweak a movement in a
Mm-hmm.
way that it's affordable for the market. At the moment, I so our watches range from $1,000 more or
Mm-hmm.
less up to 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and within that bracket, we have divers, and we have, for example, this one that it's now we start shipping next week. It's
Mm-hmm.
the chronograph. The
Yeah.
image
Mm-hmm.
is a bit dark.
Yeah.
So, but this is very it's titanium grade 5.
Mm-hmm.
So a watch like this
Yeah.
in a mainstream brand, we
Mm-hmm.
are talking about 12, 15,000,
Mm-hmm.
something like this. And with the particularity that it's the first one ever
Mm-hmm.
to have discs, or the moon discs as we call them,
Mm-hmm.
covering the subdials.
Mm-hmm.
And the subdials rotate and only show what we need to see.
Mm-hmm.
And the difficulty to make this is that one hand weighs 0.01 gram,
Mm-hmm.
and these discs they weigh 10 times more
Oh wow.
than a single hand. So
Mm-hmm.
we need to change um, the movement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I didn't have any money limitations, I could have done our own
Yeah.
chronograph movement. But the way that everything makes sense is to
Mm-hmm.
work, in this case, with Landron as well,
Mm-hmm.
again, and to change the movement in a way that can support what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that will keep everything affordable. That's um, something that we try to do. So this one is in production.
Mm-hmm.
The parts are in production.
Okay.
I hope we can have this release in the first half of 2025.
Okay.
Uh, because to make this new model,
Mm-hmm.
it's from scratch.
Yeah.
There is nothing out there that we can use and adapt to our watch, so it's basically proprietary.
Mm-hmm.
So my agreement with Landeron is that for 2 years this will be our exclusive. Then, if
Mm-hmm.
they want to start selling to someone else, they can.
Okay.
So it's not an in-house,
Mm-hmm.
but it's proprietary to
Okay.
start with, and we are going to have a patent
Okay.
on the level system because
Mm-hmm.
it's really unique. It's something very different.
Jose, how difficult is to start to build your own brand from scratch, being Portuguese living in UK, working for advertising and not being in the world of watches?
It was complicated. So, in general terms, to create a new brand, it's complicated. So everything
Mm-hmm.
became a bit easier when Kickstarter became popular and everybody was able
Mm-hmm.
to start investing more and creating prototypes and then selling them via Kickstarter with a pre-order system.
Mm-hmm.
So the pre-order system is a way of helping financing the company and the new models, etc. But it's also a difficult and dangerous approach because we have seen many offers in the market that
Yeah.
never come to life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I left Portugal, I basically had lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to the UK, I was working again in film production. Salary was good, so I
Mm-hmm.
was able to recover part of my life. And my wife, um, as I told you, she told me, yeah, sorry. So let me go a little bit back.
Mm-hmm.
So for a few years, I didn't even think about watches.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be alive, basically. And when everything started to improve again a little bit, I start meeting people
Mm-hmm.
that had very interesting collections. Um, I start talking with them. I start going to events again. So the vice, the we are addicted. The addiction was uh, appeared again. Um, it was only possible for me to do this as a plan B because I
Mm-hmm.
was working in a production company. Uh, then from that production company, I met new people. I was, making some money, and that's how I started uh, trying to meet people, trying to speak with people that was able to explain me. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, I was very very lucky to meet
Oh yeah.
Ivan Harpa from Hartia.
Martia, yeah.
Um,
And Romain
uh,
Giraud in the early ages.
exactly.
Mm.
And so he was in Geneva. He had a company. He was working for a specific company, and they had machinery. They had
Mm-hmm.
CNCs and etc. So, and there was a technician, a Portuguese technician.
Mm-hmm.
It was the guy that was in Geneva working with all the machines and was working with them with Ivan. And so we had lots of meetings. We chat a lot. Ivan teach me a lot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't recognize. I talk about him to many people,
Yeah.
but he was really important when I was starting the company. Another one that was really important to start the company was um, a guy called Jörg Bader.
Mm-hmm.
He's from Bien, and he has a company. Well, he had a company that were making the models
Mm-hmm.
for jumping hours. Um, and it's a long story, but the short version is when I was when I had all the cases made for
Mm-hmm.
the jumping hour, I called him, York, I need these models, and he told me I can't sell
Mm-hmm.
those to you anymore because I sold the company.
Well.
I said, "Oh, okay." So it was a big problem, and the company that bought his company
Mm-hmm.
was Christopher Ward.
Oh,
So the jumping hours that York was making was then
Christopher. Yeah.
for Christopher Ward. And I already spoke with this with Mike friends from Christopher Ward, and he had no clue.
Yeah.
And back then it was complicated because I had to find another supplier in La
Yeah.
Chaux-de-Fonds.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was difficult. But to gather the money, to gather the knowledge, to gather the contacts,
Mm-hmm.
to understand that when you think everything is ready, it's not. It's
Yeah.
not. There is always something that needs to be double checked, triple checked. It's horrible in terms of production. It's like making a film.
Mm-hmm.
So the methodology that you need as a producer, it's basically the same methodology you need as a watch producer, as a
Mm-hmm.
surgeon, as a aeronautic a pilot. You need to know. You need to have a list. You need to create everything from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Adding to this, at the moment, so I need to manage the company. I create the basic designs. Then I work with designers, so industrial designer, graphic designer, producer, engineer, material guy. So it's a lot of people that help me bring all the watches to reality.
Mm-hmm.
But when we start, we need to do everything by ourselves at this level. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm talking about um, when you can't invest a few thousands or a few millions in the company. So it's complex because you will lose lots of money when you are starting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are lucky enough to make a model that it's everybody likes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it will be a successful adventure. But after having lost everything once
Yeah.
in a lifetime, you are always afraid that
Yeah.
is the next release going to
Mm-hmm.
work? Is it going to jeopardize the company? So
Mm-hmm.
it's very scary. It's
Mm-hmm.
really scary. Every model that we release, it's scary because we don't know how people will
Yeah.
react to it. So what we try to do here is to make watches and designs that are um, different
Mm-hmm.
from everything else, from everyone else, very different. But at the same time, to not go too over
Yeah.
the traditional approach or the consensual
Mm-hmm.
design approach. Sorry, I like talk about the slow design. So to ponder, to understand, to not necessarily follow the trends, must to
Yeah.
listen what people think about
Mm-hmm.
watches and to understand exactly. For example, if the market wants, if the market was flooded, so this is an example.
Mm-hmm.
When I started creating our chronograph, sorry, it was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that we saw 70 releases of traditional and 1970s, 1980s, 1990s inspired chronographs.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one already.
Yeah.
I had one also very classic approach, and I said, no, stop it. No, we
Mm-hmm.
can't do this. So we had to re-engineer everything from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
The inspiration came from comics, from a book called The Incal, where the artist Moebius, he redesigned or he created the future based on his perception of his on the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a retro futuristic or retro engineering,
Mm-hmm.
spaceships, houses, cities, architecture. So all these details come uh, from there, and that's where we are. That's
Mm-hmm.
looking back. That's what I try to do. So to have the money to slowly invest in the mechanical and in the art parts of a watch,
Mm-hmm.
the steel, the titanium. Sorry. So to know the right people, to know the right factories, and at the same time to have designs that uh, resonate with everyone, or not with everyone, but at least with a large amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
If you write, if we find this balance, I
Mm-hmm.
think you can have a successful brand.
Wow.
Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult.
Mm.
Very difficult.
Jose, why did you choose the name Isotope?
Oh, so before Isotope, I tried to register, I don't know, 20 different names. Um, the ideal would have been a word with 6 letters because it's balanced,
Mm-hmm.
but there was nothing. Well, at least I couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
imagine one. And I was watching a film called The Martian, and
Mm-hmm.
he had to go from one place to the other
Mm-hmm.
in Mars, and so he took his isotope with him to warm him up. And when he was talking about isotopes, I said, "Isotope." Hmm. So I start studying and understanding what isotope meant. And isotopes are atoms similar to other atoms
Mm-hmm.
in layman terms. They are similar to other atoms but with different characteristics, just
Mm-hmm.
like watches.
Yeah.
Watches are all the same, but each one has its own characteristic. Then it was so isotopes are on everything basically, but tritium wears isotopes, and it was applied
Mm-hmm.
for many years and still is applied in a few watches these years. Then it was only a word with seven
Mm-hmm.
letters, so it was not too far from what I wanted. It was invented in UK, so the
Mm-hmm.
term was created by the wife of the scientist that discovered isotopes in
Mm-hmm.
Scotland. So it was also interesting. And finally, it was available to be registered.
Mm-hmm.
So all these factors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also very an important one. It's an universal word. So
Yeah.
it's the same here. It's the same in the US, in Spain, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, it made sense. So that's how it became isotope. It's very easy to remember, very easy to pronunciate. So here we are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your different collections?
Yeah. So sorry. So the collections are um, what I'm trying to do
Mm-hmm.
is to have, and I like to complicate a little bit. So I can show you this one. So we have our main collections at the moment. It's
Mm-hmm.
the Adrium.
Mm-hmm.
The Adrium are, or it's a diver um, with a very specific. The light is horrible. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, no problem.
Uh, so it's a very 1950s approach to a watch diver, but using obviously modern materials and modern solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, with a double domed crystal sapphire
Mm-hmm.
with a sapphire insert as well. Then I love the fact that it's not polished or brushed. So I like to have a different kind of finish. So this is bead blasted with glass,
Mm-hmm.
and it people think online that it's titanium, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not. This is stainless steel. We are
Mm-hmm.
now making in titanium as well.
Okay.
It will be released next year.
Mm-hmm.
But because the first one, the first prototype I did, it was titanium.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to have colors like that one,
Okay.
blues,
Mm-hmm.
reds, yellows, etc. So to have this kind of design, a different approach. So it's a diver watch, but with very colorful approach. It was not very common, a few
Mm-hmm.
years back when we started doing this, uh, and I thought people will think this is a toy. So with this kind of design, if it's too light,
Yeah.
no one will give credit to it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's made of stainless steel. Now people start to understand. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Now people start to understand, the quality, the craftsmanship behind it, um, and this is, the the Idrium is it's our bestseller.
Okay.
It's a fact. Then we have um, the new the new chronograph
Mm-hmm.
that it's now ending production, and it starts finish shipping this week. Um, so when you hear this, probably people are already receiving them.
Okay.
This is The other version, it's called the Terra Maris. It
Mm-hmm.
also comes with the metal bracelet.
Mm-hmm.
This is horrible. So the Terra Maris, it's brownish and blue.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's a collaboration with Miguel Seabra from Cascais.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
I know him.
and sorry.
I know him. I know Miguel.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you know how amazing he is,
Yeah.
and so this is an inspiration from his hometown,
He's
because
from,
this
he
is
has Espiral do Tempo, no?
exactly, he
Mm-hmm.
works there. And so it's very interesting because um, terra maris,
Mm-hmm.
Spanish you understand. So it's
Sí. Yes.
this is so the ocean, it's the blue on the dial,
Mm-hmm.
and the land, it's the brownish. So
The brown.
that's where, the sea meets the land, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the chronographs, and we will have the jumping hour
Uh-huh.
um, next year, and we will have as well this new double crown, the
Mm-hmm.
double crown diver.
Uh-huh.
It's more a skiing diver. It's very elegant,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a classic. And I want to make this one. We had the Good to Do a few years back. It was the first diver we did,
Mm-hmm.
and now this one, it's much more improved. We learned a lot
Mm-hmm.
during these years in production. So this one is a very very high quality skin diver,
Mm-hmm.
extremely elegant with a cushion case, very different from everything else as well.
Yeah.
It will be available next year as well,
Mm-hmm.
and this last this year, so in August, we released our first um, classic watch. Let's say it's
That's that I was going to ask you about this watch. That's the collaboration that you have done with the Revolution and Waco, right?
exactly.
That's the Mercury.
Exactly. Yeah, this is the Mercury. This is it's almost sold out,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely crazy. The story behind it. We can go there afterwards if you want.
Yes, for
Uh,
sure,
be-
because it's all mirror polish, no?
yeah. So the concept behind this, it's a Mercury
Yeah.
liquid metal,
Mm-hmm.
and what I so about 4 years ago already, I was showing. I had a meeting, a Zoom meeting with Wei,
Mm-hmm.
where I showed him this concept, the Mercury concept, because the Mercury as liquid metal. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea to create the case is like a drop of Mercury,
Mm-hmm.
and that we cut in half and create the lugs. So
Mm-hmm.
if you put the lugs together,
Mm-hmm.
they create a teardrop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and from there, expanding the case, we have these kind of guards on the side that are reminiscent from the Mercury train from the
Mm-hmm.
1930s. So it's a streamlined train,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the in the ends we have, um, when we put the hands together,
Uh-huh.
they create a leaf,
Yeah.
a leaf that is from the wreath from Mercury, the god Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the god of good fortune,
Mm-hmm.
Roman god of good fortune. So we had a few ideas around
Yeah.
Mercury, and we had three concepts that I wanted to put together.
Mm-hmm.
And when we saw, so the one I showed had an enamel black dial, and
Mm-hmm.
it said, if you do that, uh, if you do a mirror polish dial,
Mm-hmm.
I will release the watch with you.
Okay.
And I said, you can say no to Way, obviously. But I said,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
go for it. I'll try to do it.
Okay.
So I had no clue that um, no one had ever done a
Mm-hmm.
mirror polish convex dial. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Flat dials,
Yeah.
titanium polished or other materials, yes,
Hmm.
it's not easy, but easier to
Yeah.
do them. Uh, but to make one convex, it was a nightmare. And and the construction of this dial is even more complex than people realize when they when they see it. So because the sub-seconds at 6 o'clock,
Hmm.
they cannot be on a rounded surface. They need to be
Yeah.
on a flat surface
Hmm.
because the base, it's the
Hmm.
movement. So we have one dial that is polished,
Hmm.
and that's where the sub-seconds sit. On top of that, we have another disk
Hmm.
that is so we have a special tool that creates the convex or the curvature necessary um, um, to fit between the movement, the crystal, and the hands.
Hmm.
So the hands have the same curvature, the crystal sapphire has the same curvature, and if you look like this,
Hmm.
the case back is concave. So
Hmm.
everything is convex on top,
Yeah.
and the case back is concave. So it
Hmm.
sits perfectly on
On
the
the
wrist.
wrist.
And the complexity to make a mirror dial, because no one knew how to do it. We took about 6 months to find a way to do this,
Hmm.
and when it worked, it was really it's a discovery. It's
Uh-huh.
a real discovery, and then I showed it to Wade, the final product, and he said, "I love it. Let's
Hmm.
release it." And it's
How many pieces have you done?
we made 150
Hmm.
of these, and I will not make more. It's a real nightmare. It's a real nightmare to make these, and the rate it was of rejection is really high,
Hmm.
and yeah, and there is also another complexity here that most people don't talk about, but the movement. So the
Hmm.
movement is the piezo. Where is it? It's here.
Yeah.
The movement is the piezo 7001.
Hmm.
But we made the new bridge.
Hmm.
We replaced the stones,
Hmm.
so it's a much improved movement. So it's not the basic
Hmm.
um, uh, uh, ETA Peugeot 7001.
Hmm.
So people say, "Oh, you were from $1,000 to almost $3,000." Yes, no, because the case it's hand polished until we have this result. Then
Hmm.
there is we have an anti-scratch coating.
Hmm.
Then it's the movement, to design the bridge,
Hmm.
to make the bridges, to decorate the bridges, to assemble the movements, etc. I did this work with Landron as well,
Hmm.
so they uh, they changed the movement for me
Hmm.
with their expertise. It's flawless. It's unique. It's
Hmm.
proprietary as well.
Hmm.
And then to make steel hands, to bend them by hand to the
Hmm.
same curvature, to have this dial, to have all these high hand materials
Hmm.
for $3,000.
Yeah.
Sorry, there is nothing like that in the market. Nothing.
Mm.
You can find other brands that will have a basic 7001 with a basic dial, with
Hmm.
an interesting case.
Hmm.
Obviously, some of them for 4, 5, 6, 7,000. So it's that's the concept
Hmm.
of what I try to do, is to try to make different things without breaking the bank.
Yeah.
So, and as you can see, it's horrible engineering because we don't have the same case
Hmm.
for all the models. We have one strap for one model, another strap for another model. We have GMT that it's now in production again. Um we have we have the GMT, the jumping hour, the divers, the chronograph, the classic one. And next year we will have, it's in production, so in January they will be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the new 36 millimeter,
Mm-hmm.
which is a watch that it's very sporty, very classic.
Mm-hmm.
It has the shape of the wings of a bird. That's why it's called the flyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the crystal, I don't know if you can see, but
Yeah.
it's like a Pringle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's convex and concave at the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
this is amazing because you can look at the dial from every angle
Mm-hmm.
without distortion and without reflections. It's incredible. And then we are bringing back the Clou de Paris,
Mm-hmm.
which I love. I think it's really elegant. And yeah, so it's again terrible engineering because the parts that we have from one does not fit the other.
Yeah.
But I think that each watch has its own functionality.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be um, different because you can't have a field watch um, being worn as a classic one.
Yeah.
Uh, it's specific, and I like to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
like to do that. I like to
Yeah.
invest the money
Yeah.
to create and
Mm-hmm.
to do
Jose,
different things.
what's your yearly production approximately?
At the moment, we are making between 500 to 800,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the releases. Um, that's my capacity at the moment. I
Mm-hmm.
can't. If I had more, I will probably sell more, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not doable at the moment because we are a very small company. Basically, I manage the company here in the south of London, of the UK, next to
Mm-hmm.
Brighton. And then our main operation is in Switzerland. That's where I was yesterday. Um, that's where we make part of the components. That's where we assemble all the watches. That um, all all the technical approach is done on the other side. So it's I can increase production, but that may bring difficulties, not only logistic, but I like to go slowly.
Yeah.
I yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In my previous life, I was going really fast, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes things need to slow down.
Okay. What are your main markets?
The US,
Yes.
US, it's the main market. The Asian market as well, in second place. And fortunately, due to Brexit, most of our sales to Europe had a decrease of 90%, 90%. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's a shoot on the foot. I don't understand
Yeah.
how it's possible, but that's another story.
Politicians.
Um, and then in fourth of fifth place we have the UK,
Mm-hmm.
because our designs are, I don't know, a bit too forward for the style that they appreciate in the UK. I know that this new one, the Mercury design, it's selling very well in the UK
Mm-hmm.
because it's more classic. It has a different approach. I know that this one, the Flyway, will resonate very well
Mm-hmm.
with the UK market as well because it's smaller, because it's sportier and classic. But I think that it's not. I'm my our colors, our designs are a bit bold, so it's in the linear, in my opinion, of what is wearable or not on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the US is they are a lot more open to new approaches, to new brands, to new
Mm-hmm.
ventures. So I sell very well in the US. Asia, it's very interesting because they love what we do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we sell very well, and we are always trying to find new markets. So we reach them during events.
Mm-hmm.
We don't advertise much because it's we can't really show what you do in advertising, doing advertising. Um, yeah, but the US, it's still, and it will be for the next couple of years at least.
Hmm. Jose, how do you see the future? How do you plan? Where do you want to get Isotope in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, if we don't have another pandemic, uh,
Let's
because at the
hope.
moment
Yeah.
that's it's always in the back of our mind,
Yeah.
and people with businesses, we
Hmm.
will never forget what happened a few years ago. If we have um, normal conditions, if the freaking wars disappear, um, maybe with a stable market, what I want to do is more of the jumping hour style or the chronograph style. Different things
Hmm.
that we can adapt movements
Hmm.
or create affordable models and tell the time in a different way.
Okay.
Uh, I see isotope. We don't make the normal kind of watch,
Yeah.
and that is our path. So the
Hmm.
path is to keep increasing in terms of complications, offering new complications, new ways of telling the time, offering new solutions, new designs, um, constantly.
Hmm.
But in a way that we need to keep it affordable.
Hmm.
Uh, Not only because I want to get as many people as possible,
Hmm.
and I'm not stupid. I know that 3,000 for a watch these days it's already a little bit steep.
Hmm.
But for the quality that the products we are offering, 1,000 or even 2,000, it's very difficult. It's
Yeah.
becoming really difficult to keep those
Hmm.
kinds of prices. Um, so if the market stays stable for the independent ones, because
Hmm. Yeah.
the mainstream brands are suffering because of sales, because
Yeah.
the market it's really slow, and that's why I want to keep the structure very um, small, as small as
Hmm.
possible,
Yeah.
and growing very steadily. And when time comes, I need to have reserves. I need to
Hmm.
have um,
Yeah.
cash flow to grow the company, but very stable, very slowly. So I'm not in a hurry. I'm here to stay. So we
Okay.
we
Great.
will grow slowly, and if the market allows, in 10 years we will have amazing creations and still affordable.
Okay. Jose, my last questions, question that I do to all my interviewees is that if you were not wearing an isotope, what brand and model would you wear?
Okay, it's a tricky question, but I have one grail watch, that I never forget it. It's always in the back of my mind.
Hmm.
It's a Renaissance
Uh-huh.
Momento Mori,
Oh,
collaboration with a Grail watch from Revolution,
yeah.
and the architect that I forgot the name, which is ridiculous, but I forgot his name. And yeah, but that Renaissance Memento Mori, it's Silverstein. Is his last
Alan
name?
Silverstein.
Yeah, that's it.
Hmm.
His creation, his design with Renaissance. For me,
Hmm.
the blue, the reds, and it's
Yeah.
perfect. I would love to do that, and it's not a complicated watch to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it requires a lot of imagination to get there,
Hmm.
and to establish a brand at their price point with such a simple complication.
Hmm.
Simple once you know how it works.
Yeah.
Everything it's simple once you know, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's lovely. I love that watch. I I stupidly, well, I couldn't afford it when it came out,
Mhm.
and I cannot afford it definitely now because the prices are sky
Yeah.
high. Because it's really, really a beautiful watch.
Okay, Jose Miranda, founder and CEO of Isotope. It has been a pleasure to talk to you and to have you here at Indie Talks. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Hope to see you soon as well. Thank you.